From magnificent country houses to monastic ruins.
These are the landmarks and treasures that reveal our rich heritage and history.
Grand country estates to the factories at the heart of our industrial revolution.
These are the buildings, landscapes and stories that uncover Britain's amazing past.
It really is living, breathing, isn't it?
From the wilds of Snowdonia to the dramatic Dorset coast, join me and a host of celebrities with a passion for the past as we explore the riches, treasures and secrets of one of our most loved institutions, the National Trust. From the prehistoric...
I have never found anything like this.
...to the present day.
Congratulations!
The Trust has given us behind-the-scenes and below-stairs access...
Are we going right to the ground?
...to some of its finest buildings and locations.
There was gold under these hills.
We'll meet the people keeping our historic traditions alive.
Incredible!
And the experts revealing the lives of those who shaped our past.
Oh, look at that! It really is a treasure house.
This is our heritage, our history. Welcome to the secrets of the National Trust.
Today we're taking you inside the largest monastic ruin in Britain.
This heart-stopping place is Fountains Abbey in North Yorkshire, known as the Wonder of the North. We'll uncover how ancient religious buildings like this shaped Britain and transformed our landscape, with revelations about the unsavoury ancient rituals of the monks who lived here.
Sitting there with 3 leeches up each arm saying, nice mornings.
And secrets buried deep underground.
This whole area here then, Chris, is a graveyard.
Also tonight, Miriam O'Reilly hunts down one of the rarest animals in Europe.
They keep zooming out over our heads. I'm so surprised at how balletic they are in the sky.
Historian Dan Jones uses cutting-edge technology to reveal the hidden secrets of Scotland's very own Giant's Causeway.
So we're now going right into that cave here. Incredible.
And Annika Rice gets to grips with the brute force of ancient industry.
It's amazing to see that take shape like that.
Almost 900 years ago, 13 monks came to this rolling landscape of North Yorkshire to start their own monastery. They came in search of the simpler life. What they created was far from simple.
For more than 4 centuries, Fountains Abbey was one of the largest, richest and most powerful monasteries in the land. In medieval Britain, religion was at the heart of society. Monasteries dominated the landscape. They were beacons of authority, of wealth and worship.
Paint me a picture, Mark, of what it would have felt like to be standing where we're standing all those years ago when this was occupied by monks.
It would have been a stunning visual and sensory experience for them.
Mark Newman has been the National Trust's archaeologist at Fountains Abbey for nearly 30 years. For him, the place is as alive as ever.
This powerful architecture strikes of light and dark as you process up the church. Perhaps the smell of incense still lingering on the air.
And the noise, the sound of the monks, the music they're singing is replaced by the cawing of the crows today. A busy lot, aren't they?
Life began at Fountains in 1132. 13 Benedictine monks fled nearby abbeys. They took shelter under an elm tree here in the Skell Valley. Disgusted by the ungodly behaviour of their peers, the monks converted to the Cistercian order. They built a new life dedicated to prayer and a new church.
So from the moment they were under the tree to the moment this was finished, how many years?
120 years for the entire building programme.
In those days, and that kind of lack of machinery they had, that's phenomenally quick.
Manual labour is all part of that dedication to the religious life.
You know, as a gardener, as someone who uses his hands, I found that really heartening, that what the monks regarded as important was that they used their hands to the glory of God.
Fountains Abbey was a thriving monastic community of 450 people, with its own customs and even its own special language.
This is so impressive, Mark. I don't think I've ever seen a longer vaulted ceiling anywhere.
This is the lay brothers' refectory.
This must have been incredibly noisy. I mean, the ceiling's quite low. Were they speaking when they ate?
They weren't a silent order, but what they had was a sign language. So if you want milk, you make a sort of nipple symbol with your thumb.
That's a bit rude for a monk.
Take it like that. Oh, they're proper earthy fellows, these monks and
I
lay
think I'd rather
brothers.
have gone,
Yeah.
right, milk.
But there was another side to this monastery. As well as being devoutly religious, the monks also believed in the dark side of medieval medicine.
Now, over here, so this is a room that I think would have been very popular with the monks. It's called the warming room. It's in this room that you had the principal fireplace in the abbey.
Oh, this is it.
It's lit on the 1st of October and it's put out on the 1st of April.
My late father-in-law must have been a monk in a former life. He adopted exactly that rule. The rest of the family froze at the beginning of April and the end of September. So they just literally just come in here to get warm.
They would also come here for bloodletting.
Pardon?
Bloodletting.
Once a month, monks held mysterious rituals using scalpels or leeches to drain their blood, in reverence for the essence of life they believe it contained.
Sitting there with 3 leeches up each arm saying, nice morning.
Something like that.
Thank goodness for antibiotics.
Medicine has moved on, and the monks are long gone. While the monks abandoned this place nearly 5 centuries ago, there are still hundreds of residents at Fountains Abbey. I'm told they're fond of these nooks and crannies in the solarium. Bats. Thousands of bats live in National Trust properties. In their castles, stately homes and barns, you're rarely far away from these peculiar creatures of the night. In fact, the Trust cares for more bat roosts than any other organisation in Britain. To find out how, Miriam O'Reilly visited a secret bat hideout in East Sussex.
I'm in the South Downs, it's the dead of night. I'm on my way to see creatures which fascinate me, but they also give me the creeps. This National Trust woodland is a haven for bats. In fact, there are so many protected species here that the exact location is a secret. Here's a pretty dense wood, isn't it? What is this?
So this is a hop trap.
Bat ecologist Daniel Whitby uses the harp trap to monitor the health of the local bat population on behalf of the Trust.
This is what we use to catch the bats. And so it's a nice, safe, humane trap. These are fishing lines, they're quite stretchy, so it doesn't hurt them at all. And what happens, the bat flies along, hits the strings, and it makes their wings close, they just fall down, slide down the strings, and they slide down this plastic into this cloth bag, and then they just crawl up, and they just happily sit roosting there until we come along and take them out.
In Britain, bats and their habitats are strictly protected. It's illegal to even touch a bat without a wildlife licence granted by the government.
So this is a brown long-eared bat. Massive great ears to help with its hearing, so it echolocates incredibly quietly.
Look at them. Wow. The routine capture of these extraordinary animals will reveal the health of the local bat population.
So I've got to get a couple more out. Do you mind holding these bags for me?
Of course.
There we go.
Daniel bags some of the rare ones up for a closer look later. Across Britain, there aren't enough roost sites for all our bats. To help solve this problem, National Trust wildlife advisors like Crispin Scott convert its properties into special sanctuaries, like this bat barn in the South Downs.
It's surprising, Crispin, that something so simple can play such an important role in bat conservation. I've got my nail just there. So they just slip behind it here, do they?
Yes, this is just an ordinary bit of board from a sawmill, untreated timber, and you get 3 or 4 bats behind there, and they just cling onto the board, between the board and the wall, and will stay there for most of the winter.
The National Trust also use some of their privately rented properties as bat refuges.
It's just before dusk. Are we expecting to see some bats coming out of the farmhouse tonight?
We're expecting to see them emerge around dusk. You never quite know with the bats, they never seem to read rule books, but they should be out any minute now, really.
I suppose I just haven't seen them fly. They keep zooming out over our heads. I'm so surprised at how balletic they are in the sky.
Yes, they're amazing, and they're quite fast flyers, and here they want to feed as soon as they come out, and they've got this big estate, all those hedgerows and the woodlands and the open fields to feed. They want to get out there as fast as they can.
Late at night, I've returned to the secret bat hideout to see what Daniel has caught. He can trap up to 400 bats on a single night. I can't wait to see what we've got.
What's in there?
So here we've got a Daubenton's bat. This is the one with the big feet, a male, and he looks immature. If we look at the wing, yeah, so he's actually a juvenile, so he was born this year. We get an awful lot of these here. They're quite a common species, so we could just let that one go.
Night. All of the data that you collect, how is it used?
If we don't understand and know about the requirements of a species, we can't actually conserve them and do anything to protect them.
And the last one?
The last one.
Tonight we're incredibly lucky. Daniel has caught one of the rarest bats in Britain.
So this is a Beckstein's, and it's an Annex II species, so it's actually not just one of the rare bats in the UK, it's actually one of the rarest mammals in the whole of Europe.
My goodness.
So woodland bat specialises in oak woodland. It's got quite big, broad wings.
Because this Beckstein's bat is so rare, it needs a bit of jewellery.
What we're going to do now, we've taken all the measurements we need from it, and we're going to put a ring on so we can identify it if we catch it, or if any other bat worker anywhere in the country catches it. Right, so we'll just check the ring's all right, and then we can let this individual go.
And that ring won't inhibit its flight or anything?
No, so it's nice and loose, the ring slides up and down, it doesn't get stuck on the wrist, and the finger can't get stuck in it, so that's all fine.
So it's time to let him go?
We can let him go. You ready?
It's been a privilege spending a night with bats. I have to admit, they're not as scary as I thought.
Flying off into the night, as bats do.
At Fountains Abbey, walking through this ancient ruin, you develop a reverence for the spiritual and solitary lives of the monks. But outside, it was a bustling hive of activity. There was a working bakehouse, a brew house, a wool house, even a watermill. Fountains Abbey was effectively a self-sufficient factory town. Driving Britain towards the Industrial Revolution, monks were the great innovators of the medieval age.
Michael, hello.
You all right, Alan?
It's a handsome building, isn't it?
It's a cracker, isn't it?
Michael Ridsdale is the man in charge of the landscapes on the estate.
It's really sort of sturdy. It's almost like the nave of a church in a way.
Yeah, and it was built like that as well. Built to last.
Yeah.
900 years in full use.
So tell us about what it would have done in those early days.
Well, the settlement here at Fountains was growing. They needed to grow corn in the fields, bring it back to the mill, and their staple diet was beer, because they couldn't drink the water, of course,
yeah.
And they needed wheat for bread. So these monks were drinking at least a gallon a day of simple beer.
We're talking about relatively low alcohol content, then, aren't we?
About 1%.
1%, but the alcohol was purifying the water, in effect.
Yeah, it was indeed, yeah.
So does it still work, the mill wheel?
Yeah.
Can we have a go?
Yeah.
So what do you have to do?
Right, flick the main switch at the top, pull the lever over, Alan, yeah. And then turn her anti-clockwise and she'll raise the gate.
All right. It's quite... I thought it was going to be fairly easy.
That's it.
Pardon my bottom.
Don't forget, this place was like a factory.
Yeah.
There'll be dozens working the mill, controlling the weir.
Keep talking, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quiet.
Put your back into it, lad. That's a Lancastrian telling the Yorkshire lad what to do.
Yeah, but you see, there's a reason why I'm finding it a bit harder. I haven't had the 8 pints. How far does this have to come up?
Flicker across. There you go. There you go.
Is it up now?
Yes.
Thank heavens for that. Clearly, monks were much more skilled with water-driven machinery.
Whoa! There's nothing more exhilarating than seeing the power of nature harnessed like this, is there?
Absolutely.
This is actually at the heart of the manufacturing industry, if we can call it industry, as far back as the 12th century, of the entire abbey.
This is the beating heart of the Cistercian monasteries, This is where all the food was ground, and this is where all the barley came from, and this is where they got the drink and where they got their bread. This sustained the settlement.
So without this, they would have starved to death?
Absolutely.
As monasteries powered Britain towards industrialisation, the workforce needed tools. Annika Rice visits another historic watermill in County Antrim to make a tool that's close to my heart.
In medieval Britain, spades were made by blacksmiths, but during the Industrial Revolution, the mass production of spades was made possible by harnessing the power of water. Today, that tradition is carried on by a handful of men. One of them is Colin Dawson. At Paterson Spade Mill, the raw power of the river is revealed in the machines it drives. None more impressive than the beating heart of the spade-making process, the mighty tilt hammer.
Well, you might think making a spade is actually quite straightforward, but I'm about to find out why it was once considered to be one of our most skilled jobs. Colin, I'm embarrassed to say I've never much thought about a spade before now, and it turns out it's a major part of Ireland's industrial heritage.
Everybody needed a spade because there was no diggers or JCBs. A digger was a man with a spade.
By the mid-19th century, there were 171 different types of spade made in Ireland, every one for a specific task.
Some of them defy description. What about this one? It's got a funny bit off the end.
Irish spades were mostly made with a footplate on the left.
Yeah.
And when the English and Scotchmen came to Ireland, they said the Irish were left-footers or dug with the wrong foot. So today, if someone asks you what foot you dig with, they're asking you what religion they are. So a left-footer would be a Roman Catholic.
Which is your favourite?
Well, the County Antrim one would be this one here, and this would be a good, strong, labouring man's spade.
Could you show me how to make a spade?
Well, we'll have a go.
Every spade made at the mill starts life just like this. A block of steel in a fiery furnace.
So that's the socket.
Yeah.
That's where the shaft goes into.
Then the block of steel is hammered until the shape begins to form.
So squeeze it nice and tight.
Got it. It's amazing to see that just starting to take shape like that. I love it. Where are we off to now?
Back into the furnace.
Back into the furnace.
Then it's pressed into its rough shape by a machine called a billet press.
So that is called the lift.
Yeah.
And that is called the dish. Pushes up and down.
Traditionally, spade making was a secretive craft.
And then lift it out a wee bit, let the steam come off it.
Desperate not to lose their jobs, spade makers rarely revealed the tricks of their trade. The skills were passed from father to son and craftsman to apprentice.
Woo! And there we have it. Beautifully done, if I might say,
Yes.
Colin. Okay, got it. Yes! Thank you so much, Colin.
Pleasure.
That really was a privilege to have
Well, it's my
watched you do
pleasure.
that, and I'm so touched.
My pleasure.
I think someone called Alan's going to want that.
Fountains Abbey was also a hotbed of industry. As well as harnessing water power, the monks built a wool empire that stretched from coast to coast across northern Britain. Walking through this mysterious ruin, archaeologist Mark Newman is revealing the lives of the ancient monks who made their home here. And beneath the Abbey's manicured lawns are some surprising secrets. Archaeologist Dr. Chris Gaffney is from the University of Bradford.
Serious stuff. It's not a lawnmower, Chris. It's just
No,
what I
it's
thought
not.
from a distance.
No. This is a ground-penetrating radar.
Chris's lawnmower is really quite clever. It sends waves of energy into the ground. When they bounce back, it visualises what's beneath the surface. Chris and Mark originally used the radar to scan for old drains, but they soon discovered something extraordinary.
Here we go.
The images begin to build up. And can you see?
Yes.
See these things here?
Yeah.
They're graves. There's another one coming in. See what you can...
Picking up now.
Yeah.
We're on new
Yeah,
territory
So
now.
you've got the new
So
new
here
data
we've got
sets,
more coming in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
This
it's
is
just
really...
in here.
Ooh,
Fantastic.
yeah.
This is characteristic of a grave-type anomaly here. We can see them all the way through this section.
Almost by accident, Chris and Mark had discovered one of the most complete ancient burial sites in Britain.
It's absolutely perfect.
Oh, there's loads of them, one after another, at a depth of 1.2 metres, about 4 feet.
We may not necessarily be looking at the very bottom. In other words, there may be more than one grave.
Oh, so they're stacked?
They're stacked.
There are up to 4 burials in each individual grave cut, but they will put a body in, put in side stones and a slab across the top, and then there will be another burial on top of it.
So this whole area here then, Chris, is a graveyard.
Yeah.
With 500 cuts down in it, with potentially 4 people in each one. So there could be 2,000 people buried
all
here.
the way over here.
And if you start working out how many monks there would have been over the course of time and how many lay brothers, you're pretty much accounting for everybody who would have lived here from the monastic community. For so long we've seen the Abbey as ruins, as an archaeological object, and then the people who made this place
They're still here.
are here.
Yeah.
They never went away.
Rest in peace, all you thousands of monks and lay people. We'll tread very carefully on top of you. Makes you quite respectful, doesn't it?
There were hundreds of abbeys and monasteries across the UK. So what can happen when the monks decide to move on? To find out, Annika Rice has made her way to Mottisfont Abbey in Hampshire.
In the 13th century, this site was a priory, home to monks from the Augustinian order. For 800 years, Mottisfont evolved quietly with a succession of owners.
It wasn't until the late 1930s that it underwent its most radical transformation, and that was all down to one remarkable woman.
Maud Russell had a dream. The wealthy art lover wanted to make her home one of the most extravagant places in Britain. A unique backdrop to throw lavish high society parties. Maud commissioned the extraordinary talents of Rex Whistler, famous for his portraits of London's glitterati.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
The centrepiece of his creation is Mottisfont's saloon, the Whistler Room. But first impressions can be deceptive. There are no real columns or ledges. Even the moulded plasterwork is a trick. All of it has been ingeniously painted to fool the eye.
It is extraordinary, because if you look there at the columns and ledges, when you walk round, they just disappear in a sort of Rex Whistler moment of genius.
Here to tell me about it is one of Maud's lifelong friends, historian and travel writer, John Julius Norwich.
This is extraordinary.
Isn't it wonderful?
Oh,
I think it's one of the loveliest rooms in England.
Even the swags. Look
Yes,
at them.
you see.
It's outrageous.
I know.
Nothing's real.
And you see that little paint pot up there, that's not real either.
That's not real.
He just left it behind, you know. That's very, very typical of him. He always did a thing like that.
I feel as if I'm in a sort of theatre set.
At Maud's parties, there were high-profile guests, like the Churchills, Ian Fleming, and members of the Bloomsbury set.
She did make the most pulverizingly strong dry martinis, whiskey sours, old fashions. She was a tremendous bartender.
As they sank their cocktails, John Julius often played the piano.
I used to play the piano, and I used to sing a few songs to a guitar.
The parties continued at Mottisfont for many decades, and it doesn't take much to imagine the Whistler Room filled with music and famous faces.
Thank you, John Julius.
Like Whistler's astonishing trickery at Mottisfont, at Fountains Abbey, there's a visual treat that surprises and inspires.
More than 250,000 people visit Fountains Abbey each year, but they don't just come to see the Abbey, because right next door to these ancient ruins is one of the finest water gardens in the world. This is Studley Royal. Wow, now that is a view. That is a spectacle.
Studley Royal is an 18th century water garden and the grounds of Fountains Abbey. They stretch out over 800 magnificent acres.
Great canal going down the middle. A huge moon pond in the centre. A lovely temple just nestling in the trees there. And then a tower up there, the Octagon Tower.
Studley Royal was the first garden in Britain to become a World Heritage Site.
Everywhere you look, it's like an amphitheatre, isn't it? Just cradling this amazing canal of water.
Where else in England will you see something like that?
Nowhere.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Michael Ridsdale's been maintaining this glorious landscape for more than 30 years.
So right next door to the Abbey, we have this astonishing contrast, this water garden, this estate. Who designed it?
John Aisleby, Chancellor of the Exchequer. He set about creating one of the greatest Georgian landscapes we have in England.
It looks like lakes, but I can hear water up there. So is this, in effect, a river that's being controlled and shaped?
It is. You could argue one of his cleverest movements was to harness the river scow. And what John did was to canalise the river, put in a series of dams, so you got movement and you got stillness. You got white water and black water.
And this enormous moon in the middle with two crescent moons either side of it, which seen from the air is the most sensational bit of geometry, isn't it?
And they're also giant mirrors. So the landscape was able to be mirrored inside the ponds as well.
During the garden's construction, there were as many as 100 people working here.
How many gardeners have you got now?
8.
8 and volunteers?
Yes.
Well, I tell you what, it's still looking pretty good.
Yeah, but it is a challenge.
I couldn't visit a World Heritage garden without getting my hands dirty. As well as maintaining the water gardens, enormous banks of laurel need to be trimmed.
The last time I saw a scene like this, it was on the back of a packet of tea. But these aren't tea plants. Goodness me, do you not know they've invented electrical snippers now? You know, you go all over this.
Here, try these.
Try these.
It takes volunteers like Dave Power and Ian Alston months to trim all this laurel.
Now everybody's going to say, though, aren't they, seriously, why do you use secateurs? Why don't you use power trimmers?
If you look at it when it's been done, you'll find that you get in there a ziggy-zag edge, and you can see that from the distance, whereas here it's all nice and clean, and you get the effect from further away.
And you just drop these prunings down into the mould?
Yes.
Oh, I like that sort of thing. Sort of the horticultural version of under the carpet. Sweep it under the rug. I've really enjoyed myself, but I can't deprive you of the enjoyment for much longer. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.
I'm going down now for a cup of tea as opposed to this tea plantation.
Yeah.
Good old laurel. Reflects the light beautifully. Just blooming hard to get through.
Watch your step.
Just watch your step.
Oh, chaps.
Yeah?
You missed this.
Oh, drat.
Oh!
Hey!
Under the guiding hands of gentlemen and monks, Studley Royal and Fountains Abbey have matured through 8 centuries. But every year these ruins survive, they're tested by the power of nature.
You won't believe how quickly this garden can flood. Within the matter of 3 hours, it would have rained up in the catchment, and the whole of what you're seeing in front of you will be under 2 metres of water.
From where it is now?
We're at the mercy of the river.
Is that kind of a scary moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's no control. It's a deluge. You can imagine what the aftermath is like?
I can. Filthy.
Untamed, the forces of nature can wreak havoc, but occasionally they create something captivating, as historian Dan Jones discovered.
This is the Giant's Causeway on the County Antrim coast of Northern Ireland. It's the National Trust's #1 attraction, with more than 500,000 visitors every year. Legend has it that a giant called Finn McCool built the causeway from Northern Ireland through the North Atlantic Ocean to an island in the Scottish Hebrides you've probably never heard of.
On a damp, grey day like today, this uninhabited island can feel like one of the remotest places in Britain. We're in Scotland's Inner Hebrides, on our way to Stafa.
Just like the shafts of rock at the Northern Ireland end of the causeway, it's easy to see how the columns of basalt on Stafa reinforce belief in the legend.
Geologists think the causeway was created not by giants, but by ancient volcanic activity. After eruptions on the Antrim Plateau about 60 million years ago, molten basalt lava hit the seabed and quickly cooled, forming these vast columns, just like the ones in Northern Ireland.
Scientists are reinterpreting the island's human history too. Dr. Daniel Rhodes, a National Trust for Scotland archaeologist, is leading a groundbreaking project to discover the island's early inhabitants for the very first time. Daniel's work is focused on this spellbinding place, Fingal's Cave.
Daniel, over the years there have been some very famous visitors to Fingal's Cave, even Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, but some of them have left their mark on the walls. So Nimrod here, that's a ship, a famous ship, right?
Yeah, there's been a number of HMS Nimrods over the last few hundred years.
There's so much graffiti on these walls, but it's all over the top of each other. How do you get to see it properly and study it?
We take high-resolution images to try and identify more than we can see in the cave.
After some techie trickery called reflection transformation imaging, Fingal's Cave unveils the identities of more visitors.
So we can manipulate the light source to move it around and create shade and shadow and see how much more we can actually read.
This is an incredible effect because this looks just like a photo of the wall, but as soon as you start moving here, we've got all of these things coming out. So now we can see Stephen Hogarth.
We've got a date there, looks like a 39.
Looks like a 39, 1839 yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Then suddenly these, even more of them. This, I think, says Plowberry.
Daniel's technology is revealing a view of Fingal's Cave never seen before.
Not everybody can actually get to Fingal's Cave, but using technology like this, we can create these fly-throughs and these images, and people can experience actually entering the cave and walking exactly where we are.
So we're sort of now going, well, right into that cave here, but, you know, instead of taking a ferry and a boat and a train and a plane and everything that it takes to get here, you can look at this fly-through.
Yeah.
Incredible.
We've all heard of the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, but I love this Scottish version, nestled away here in the Hebrides.
Because of the work the National Trust for Scotland are doing using the latest technology, we're finding out more about Stafa every day.
It's rare for somewhere to capture your imagination as much as Fountains Abbey. Walking through nearly 9 centuries of history, I developed a real empathy for the monks that called this breathtaking place home, how they lived and how they died. This glorious building is their legacy, an enduring testament to the power and influence of religion in the medieval world. Yet one man is mostly responsible for the way Fountains looks today. Not a monk, a king. Henry VIII, the architect of the downfall of this Gothic icon.
So for 400 years, this is a prayerful community. Then along comes Henry VIII. He's not allowed a divorce by Rome, so he says, right, Catholicism's out. I'm having your money, I'm having your buildings, you can push off, monks.
The deal is, as with all other monasteries, it has to be rendered unfit for future religious use.
In the 1530s, Henry VIII wanted to crush the domination of the Catholic Church. He dissolved monasteries across the country. Fountains was far too grand and far too rich to escape his wrecking ball.
So what happened physically?
There are gangs of workmen stripping the materials out of here.
Roof off.
Roof off. Huge timbers that can be very carefully dismantled and taken down and sold and used in other places. Certainly the lead sheets covering the outside, very easy. They've used a claw hammer to rip them off, melt them down into ingots, stick them on a cart down to York. The windows taken out of their openings, the glass can be reused, but so again can the lead strips that held it together. And they start work on the stonework as well. So you're missing here one of the 4 columns that would have supported the original crossing tower, and all you're left with is the scars in the walls where the stonework has been plucked off.
From being somewhere the monks revered and beautified, Henry VIII's destruction created another kind of stark beauty. Now, you look around and think there's still a lot of dignity about this place, and a lot of wonder.
It may just be a shadow of its former self, but somehow the skeleton of Fountains Abbey that's left behind is every bit as awe-inspiring as that was built over 800 years ago.